Tonight you're going to put your child to bed in a room of their own. A crib with soft sheets, a baby monitor glowing on the nightstand, the door closed, the house quiet. You won't think twice about it. But for 99.9% of human history, a baby sleeping alone in a room would have been dead by morning. No crib, no monitor, no pediatrician to call. Just the dark, the cold, and everything out there that could smell a newborn from a quarter-mile away. For over 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors faced the same problem. Human babies are the most helpless creatures on the planet, and keeping one alive was the hardest thing our species ever had to do. How they did it changes everything we think we know about parenting, about family, and about what your body was actually set up for. Let's start with the problem, because the problem is you. A newborn horse stands up and walks within hours of birth. A newborn chimpanzee grips its mother's fur and holds on from the first minute. A newborn human can't even hold up its own head. It can't walk for a year. It can't feed itself for years. It can't survive a single night without someone else keeping it alive. Of all the primates on Earth, human babies are born the most unfinished, and the reason is your brain. The human brain is so large that if it grew to the same proportion as a chimpanzee's before birth, it would never fit through the birth canal. So evolution made a trade. Human babies are born with brains roughly 25% of their adult size. A chimpanzee is born at about 40%. That means 75% of your brain development happens after birth while you are completely defenseless. This is not a design flaw. This is the deal. We got the most powerful brain on the planet. The price was the most helpless infant on the planet. And for 300,000 years, every mother who gave birth faced this equation. A baby that couldn't cling. A baby that couldn't run. A baby that couldn't even stay quiet when a predator was close. In a world full of leopards, hyenas, and snakes, that baby was not a gift. It was a target. So how did they keep it alive? The answer is something modern humans have almost completely abandoned. They didn't do it alone. In 2009, anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy published a book called Mothers and Others. Her argument was simple and devastating. Humans are not like other great apes. A chimpanzee mother raises all her offspring almost entirely by herself. She carries, feeds, and protects her baby solo for 5 years before she can have another. If anyone else tries to touch that infant, she attacks them. Humans are the opposite. We are what biologists call cooperative breeders. We evolved to raise children as a group, not because it was nice, because it was the only way to keep them alive. Without the energy and protection provided by others, the enormous cost of growing a human brain inside a helpless body would have driven our species to extinction. We didn't survive because we were strong. We survived because we shared the weight. And the data on this is staggering. Among the Efa foragers of the Ituri forest in the Congo, researchers found that a baby is held by an average of 14 different people in a single 8-hour period. 14. The infant is transferred from one pair of arms to another roughly 8 times every hour. The mother holds the baby about 40% of the time. The other 60%, the child is in someone else's arms entirely. Aunts, older siblings, grandmothers, neighbors, women who aren't even related to the child. Some of them breastfeed the baby themselves. Among the AK of Central Africa, anthropologist Barry Hewlett found that fathers are within arm's reach of their infants more than 47% of the day. These are not modern fathers performing a parenting trend. These are men living the way humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years. The baby was never alone. The baby was never on the ground. The baby was never not touching somebody, and there was a reason for that. A baby on the ground was a dead baby. When early humans became bipedal millions of years ago, they lost the body hair that primate infants used to cling to their mothers. Chimpanzee baby grips its mother's fur from the moment it's born and hangs on. A human baby has nothing to hold, so mothers carried them every hour, every day, for years. They fashioned slings out of animal hides and plant fibers. A 10,000-year-old burial site in Italy revealed an infant named Nivev, buried with what archaeologists believe was a decorated baby carrier. But the carrying wasn't just transportation, it was survival technology. When a human infant is picked up and held against a body, its heart rate drops, its breathing stabilizes, it stops crying. Scientists call this the transport response. It is an ancient biological program wired directly into the nervous system. In the wild, a crying baby attracts predators. A baby that goes silent the moment it is carried is a baby that stays alive. Your infant still does this right now. When you pick up a screaming newborn and hold it to your chest and it suddenly calms, that is not comfort. That is a 300,000-year-old predator evasion reflex still running inside your child's body. The baby believes it is being carried to safety, so it goes quiet, so it doesn't get you both killed. But carrying alone wasn't enough. You also had to feed them. And what ancient humans fed their babies would make most modern parents flinch. Mothers breastfed for a minimum of 2 to 3 years. In many hunter-gatherer groups, 4 years or longer. This was not a lifestyle choice. This was the only option. There was no formula. There were no bottles. There was no clean water safe enough for an infant to drink. Breast milk was the only sterile, nutritionally complete food a baby could receive, and it carried antibodies that fought infections in a world with zero medicine. Breastfeeding also did something else. It suppressed ovulation. A mother nursing us around the clock would not get pregnant again for years. This was nature's birth control. Because if you had 2 helpless infants at the same time in the Paleolithic, the odds of losing both went through the roof. And when the baby started needing more than milk, there was no baby food. No mashed fruit in a jar, no soft cereal from a box. What there was premastication. The mother, or the grandmother, or whoever was holding the baby, chewed a piece of meat or a tough root until it was soft and partly broken down by their saliva. Then they pushed it from their own mouth directly into the baby's mouth, lip to lip, saliva carrying digestive enzymes and immune cells straight into the child. Some anthropologists now believe this is the evolutionary origin of human kissing. Not romance, not affection, a mother feeding her child the only way she could. And then there were the grandmothers. This is the part of the story that nobody expects. Most animals die shortly after they stop being able to reproduce. There is no evolutionary reason to keep a body running once it can no longer pass on genes, but human women live for decades after menopause. Why? In 1997, anthropologist Kristen Hawkes at the University of Utah published a study on the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last hunter-gatherer groups on Earth. She found that postmenopausal women were among the hardest working and most productive foragers in the entire group. They spent hours in the heat, digging tough tubers from hard ground. They collected foods that young children could never get on their own, and they fed their grandchildren. This meant that mothers could have another baby sooner, because grandmother was already feeding the last one. Hawkes called this the grandmother hypothesis. The reason human women outlive their fertility is because grandmothers who helped raise grandchildren passed on more of their genes. Your long lifespan exists because 300,000 years ago, an old woman digging roots in the African sun was the difference between a child living and a child starving. Menopause is not a breakdown. It is a strategy. One of the most successful strategies our species ever evolved. And here's the part that should unsettle every modern parent reading this. For 300,000 years, no humans had raised a child alone. Never. It was always a group, always a network of hands, always someone to pass the baby to when you couldn't hold your eyes open anymore. The average mother in a hunter-gatherer band had somewhere between 5 and 15 people actively helping her raise each child every single day. Today, in most industrialized countries, that number is 2. Often 1. You are sitting in an apartment at 3 a.m. with a screaming infant and nobody is coming. No grandmother down the path, no aunt in the next shelter. No neighbor who will hold your baby while you sleep for an hour. The exhaustion and loneliness that modern parents feel is not weakness. It is not a failure of character. It is the result of trying to do alone what your body was never once, in 300,000 years of evolution, designed to do alone. For the entire history of our species, the question was never whether one person could raise a child. The answer to that was always no. The question was whether enough people cared about that child to keep it alive. And for 300,000 years, enough people always did. Because that's the only reason any of us are here. That's all for today. Anyway, please donate or subscribe to fund the next video.